It's Sony's last chance to fix this generation. Can they do it? How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. Check out this upgrade. I got a stick for my microphone. I feel like a news reporter, and this is a news channel, so it all makes sense. In addition to that first topic, we're talking about how it's time to update your PS5 and how it kind of flies in the face of what they just said about these updates. And then we're going to round out the video talking about how we're losing a PS5 exclusive, and I'm kind of bummed about it because some people are making this look like a good thing and it's just not living in reality. But all right, let's jump into this first news story here, which is, can Sony save the PS5 generation? Now, I'm not going to be like a doomer about it because at the end of the day, I don't really think this generation is anywhere close to bad. The whole issue of cross-gen games where we got God of War Ragnarok, we got Horizon Forbidden West, we got Gran Turismo 7 on PS4, that doesn't really bother me at all because I saw a material benefit by buying a PlayStation 5 and playing those games on PlayStation 5. It wasn't just a straight resolution upgrade or like anything like that. They ran the games at better settings, and a lot of the games, if not all of them, ran at 60 frames per second. And knowing that less people are buying games because they're spending all their time playing Grand Theft Auto and they're playing Fortnite or Apex Legends or I don't know, any of these live service games that are constantly at the top 10 charts that Sony puts out every single month, the single player games, a good strategy does seem to be putting them on PS4 if they can run on PS4. Like, I get you want the true exclusivity of PlayStation gaming, but if I was going to be mad about anything, I would be mad about the shortening window between games coming out on PS5 and PC. I think the 1 year wait is more than acceptable. I think all of the main focus should be going to making sure these games are ready to go at launch on the PlayStation 5, and everything else like PC or whatever else, that's just extra money they can put in their pocket. I want the main focus to be on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation consoles like the PlayStation 4 or Pro, and I feel like that's what we've been getting. So I don't think it's nearly as bad as some of the people out there are making it out to be. But with that being said, they are in a dire spot right now with all these games that have been canceled. Jim Ryan, when he left, I was like, okay, I'm not like 50-50 on him. I'm more like 30-70, 30 being positive, 70 being negative. But now I'm like 10-90. He gets 10% approval rating from me for managing the whole situation with the PlayStation 5 launch during the lockdowns and everything, when all of the components were super hard to get and the console itself was super hard to get. It took them a little longer than I think most people would like for the PlayStation 5 to be available, but he did a good job getting it out there and making sure at least most of the people who wanted to get one could get one, even though they were all being bought up by scalpers. So decent job there. But this live service initiative, whoo, man, this did not work at all. I understand where they're coming from with it. They were like, okay, all we need is one live service game to hit. We'll make like 10 to 12 of them. And then if none of them hit, but if one of them hits, that funds the single player games we want to have coming out well into the future. And it also keeps us making tons of money with these live service games. Then the one they don't even put focus on, Helldivers 2, that's the one that explodes. And like, they haven't done anything with it. They've taken a long time to get updates out there. They did a lot of nerfing to the weapons that really pissed people off and dropped the concurrent players. They don't really market it. Cross save with PC and PS5 still is not implemented. And that was a feature that was announced on the PlayStation blog for launch, which is a weird sort of false advertising thing because it was in the launch post for the game. And then they were just like, sorry, we were wrong. Did you lie? Was it a mistake? I don't know, because they don't talk to us. So it would have been nice to see them pump a bunch of money into Helldivers 2 to grow it as a live service. But instead of doing that, they put their developers on games that no one was asking for and genuinely no one wants, like a God of War live service game. I'm fine with a new God of War. I don't want it to be a grinding online game, and nothing about God of War Ragnarok or God of War 2018 lends itself well to multiplayer, and the old style of gameplay from God of War did not lend itself to multiplayer either, because if you guys didn't play God of War Ascension on PS3, it was solid. It was a decent prequel game for Kratos and God of War and everything, but the multiplayer was terrible. It was not fun. It was like something you played once or twice just to see how God of War would work with multiplayer, and spoilers, it worked exactly how you thought it would. would. We also heard a lot of talk at the beginning of the generation that, oh, every developer is working on multiple games. And clearly that only applied to studios like Naughty Dog, where technically they were working on multiple games, right? Like they were working on, I don't know, Intergalactic, but at the same time they were working on remasters and remakes like The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 remastered. That's not multiple games. That is not even close to what you knew people would think when you said multiple games. So I don't know why they put that info out there. And as it turns out, the other studios like Bend and Bluepoint were working on one game, and it's live service games that no one was asking for. If Days Gone 2 was also greenlit at the same time, and then they incubated both games and went with the one that was working out better, I think people would be a lot more receptive to what's happening at Sony now. But a huge divot has been cut into the release strategy, and the only way they can fix it is by getting first-party games into production and out the door. They got onto this before Hideaki Nishino and Herman Hulst were signed on as the new CEOs. Hiroki Totoki was like going into Bungie saying, you guys don't work. You're lazy, you're entitled, you're babies, get your shit together or we'll shut your studio down. And they did not do that. They've done a mediocre job at getting anything out the door over at Bungie. Now I need that energy to be put upon all the studios at Sony. Make smaller games, make more focused games. Don't go for this quadruple A experiences. Leave that to Naughty Dog and Ghost of Yotei and everything else. But if you're a smaller studio like Bend, you should be getting games out the door in 2 to 3 years. Like, you do not deserve, I'm sorry, I love Days Gone. I think it's a great game, but you do not deserve the 4 to 5 year, maybe even 6 year waits between games from Santa Monica Studio, Naughty Dog, and everyone else. You're just a smaller studio. Like, where did the B squads go that would fill out the release schedule with great first party games? I mean, they filled it out with third party exclusives, but those aren't even exclusive anymore. Most, if not all of them, go to Xbox and Nintendo Switch or wherever else after an indeterminate amount of time. We want smaller quality first party exclusives, and I know Sony has the capability to deliver them. So I was going to say sorry for the harsh criticism. It's not harsh criticism. It's just reality of what needs to happen over at Sony. There's good people working there. I'm not super high on Herman Hulst right now, but all he has to do is prove me wrong with some single player first party games, and all we can really do is wait and see. But yeah, it's a little bit of a weird situation going on at Sony. I don't feel like the PS5 generation was a wash at all. I love playing on my PS5. I love the games that were also on PS4. I love the third-party games as well. It's just not at the level that they set with the PS4 and the back half of the PS3 generation. And I'd like to see them get there, because that's what got my friends to buy PlayStations instead of Xbox 360s. And when I was the only one on PS3, those were tough times. I was playing a lot of single player stuff and telling all my friends about it, and they were not receptive because they were playing stuff like Gears of War 2 and I don't know, Peter Jackson's King Kong. They weren't playing that. That was just a good 360 game. Anyway, that brings me to the next news story here in the video, which is a short one. It is time to upgrade your PlayStation 5. There's a firmware update now. It does nothing. It's weird looking at this and seeing that it adds 0 features to the PS5 when we just had a news story about how a small dedicated team within Sony did a hackathon and figured out how to make the welcome hub, and they scrapped it together because people wanted themes on the console. They said we're going to be getting more updates as time goes on and a lot more quickly. They weren't lying about the second half, but getting one of these performance and stability updates right after you say you're going to be putting out more with features faster, weird messaging there. It's nothing too crazy. It's not worth criticizing them for or anything like that, but there are some features people want, and I'd like to see some confirmation from Sony that they are in the works, because these ones where you can't log into the PlayStation Network but they don't add any features, that's not a good transaction. If I can't use features of my console until I update it, there better be some good stuff that comes along with it instead of performance and stability updates, which are totally meaningless to 99% of people, the 1% being the people who know what they actually fixed. I'm sure it was an exploit or something with the PlayStation Network, so it's good. They're protecting us from all the hackers and everything, I guess, but you know, let's get some more features, guys. You're in the back half of the generation. Give us some stuff to be excited for, especially with all these cancellations going on over at your studio. And finally, that brings me to the third topic here, which is we're losing an exclusive on PlayStation, and I don't think it's a good thing. So we all know the situation with the Final Fantasy VII remake. A lot of people bought the first game because, you know, the vast majority of people out there who aren't tuned in to the PlayStation ecosystem, they're not watching PS Ready. They're not listening to my friend Dustin's podcast, Sacred Symbols. They see the box art. It looks like the PS1 box art. It says Final Fantasy VII remake. And then they get to the end of the game and they're like, what the That was like the first quarter, if not the first third of the original Final Fantasy VII. So then a few years later down the line, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out. These people don't even know what this is. They're like, is this a spinoff? Is this a DLC? What is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And they don't buy it. Also, didn't look too good in 60 FPS mode on the PS5, which turned off a lot of power users. 30 FPS mode looked great. And honestly, I had fun playing it at 60 FPS. I fell off of it, but I'm glad I did because it does look and run great at the same time on PlayStation 5 Pro. But now we've got the third game, whatever they're going to call it, Final Fantasy VII redone. It's over. Final Fantasy VII finished the saga, I guess. I don't really know what they're going to call it. And a lot of people have been asking, is this going to be exclusive to PlayStation? And the producer, I mean, the question really was, is it going to be a PS6 exclusive? And he said no, and he laughed when the person asked that. So this could be a game that we see towards the end of the PS5 generation. I know that's wishful thinking, but Rebirth came out very early in the PS5 generation. So I could see the third game kind of, closing out the generation, or, being a split title between PS5 and PS6. But we know that Square Enix's strategy going forward is no longer to have console exclusives. So these games that were exclusive to the Switch, like Octopath Traveler, and then came to other platforms later, or Final Fantasy VII Remake being exclusive to PlayStation and Rebirth being exclusive to PlayStation, coming to PC later. They want to make it so it all comes out at the same time on every platform. But that really only leaves Xbox, which is weird. And I don't think giving Xbox players the opportunity to play Final Fantasy VII Remake or Rebirth is going to recoup the costs of even developing for those consoles unless they're on Game Pass day one. And even then, I don't think that's going to help you recoup what you lost making these games exclusive to PlayStation in the first place. Like the Xbox audience, they don't buy games. Look at the new sales data for Indiana Jones. 9s and 10s across the board. It's available on Game Pass day one. You want to know where people played it? They downloaded it on their Xbox for free. They enjoyed it there. They weren't even playing it on Xbox. PC sales were mid at best because people, I guess, just aren't interested in Indiana Jones anymore. The games are not being bought on Xbox. So spending the money to port these games over to that console to launch at the same time doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if they do manage to launch it day one on PC at the same time, I could see that generating more sales because, the marketing angle is that like, oh, you can play it on day one on PC and they don't got to do another marketing spend a year later like they are now with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I'm going to talk about on my channel Deck Ready. But I feel like that's really the only platform where you're going to see these increased sales. Maybe the Switch 2, if it is powerful enough to run these games at a locked 30, I could see people buying it there. But yeah, I see a lot of people talking about this as if Xbox is the secret to selling Square Enix games. And it's like, I don't know what they're smoking, but I want some because we have the data. People don't buy games on Xbox, and the fees that these developers are getting to put their games on Game Pass day one, it's not working. Because if it was working, every developer would be lining up down the street in Redmond, Washington at Microsoft HQ, banging on the door, begging to get their games on Game Pass day one. And the only stuff we really see from the third party there is games that needed more marketing or didn't have a lot of hype, like Outriders, for example. So yeah, it's a bummer that Final Fantasy VII 3 is going to not be exclusive to the PlayStation 5. I mean, I think 99% of gamers out there associate that franchise with PlayStation. I hope for the best with Square Enix, but I don't think this is the problem. I think if they made the games look and run better in 60 FPS mode and maybe catered to the turn-based strategy crowd that's excited for the next Persona game, or they're excited for Expedition 33, and put in a mode where you can play in action or true turn-based, I think that would go a lot longer with people and get them more excited to buy these games, even though you're still fighting an uphill battle because you split this whole one single experience into 3 games. I think that was the biggest mistake with Final Fantasy VII Remake, but business people are going to business people. I don't know what else to say there. Anyway, guys, that wraps it up for this weekend update here on PS Ready. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.